Coming up with good characters is one of the most important things about writing good fiction. And you may have a character that has very interesting traits, that lives a life and has a personality that you think would be very informative to the reader and give them new insight about their own lives and about humanity and be entertaining. One way that you can create characters with more impact is to think of creative ways to make your characters more likable. And by doing this, you increase the impact that the other aspects of that character make upon your reader. If your character is leading an interesting life, that life is not going to seem as interesting if the character comes across as dull or, something like that. Even though they might be, in great peril or under really unusual circumstances, it's worth it to consider ways that you might make your character more likable. The most obvious way of doing that is to make them attractive, make them physically attractive. Hollywood is well known for that. They do not refrain from doing that at all. That it works and it is done a lot. I think that anyone could come up with new ways of making their characters more likable, and so this gives you a lot of room for creativity, a lot of room for originality. Let's have a look at some of the ways that we can do that. Just a quick note, if you like my tutorials, you can encourage me to make more of them by visiting my website at solomation.com, solomation.com. I make animated episodes about the story I've been working on. You can also get the first book of my story, and if you're watching this in the near future, you will be able to get my second and third book in the series. Please take the time to check it out. Also, please hit the like button and leave a comment if you have an idea about creative ways that you can make your characters more likable. Here's one way that you can boost your character's likability. Have a character that is leading by example. If you have a character who will try and exert effort in something that your reader is interested in, then that serves a purpose to your reader. They have a chance to imagine themselves doing those things and to learn by that. And that brings a feeling of the viewer for that character, so that the other things that are going on with the character are more important to your reader. So if you have a character who's trying to make it in a certain occupation, and they're leading by example, and the trials and tribulations that they go through inform your viewer, and your viewer empathizes with that character. A character who lives certain values, who the things that character says and does inform your reader about the different questions and answers of those values, and the decisions they would make, and the sacrifices, and what it would mean to live in those values. As an example, if you have a character who lives up to the ideal of what it means to be a scientist of integrity, so you have a character who really does what they can for the empirical method and discusses what it means to be true to the information and all of that, then what you're doing is you're in through this fictional world that you've created. You can bring your viewer in and help them learn as if they were there in that situation, the answers and philosophy behind the value of what it means to be a scientist of integrity, as an example. You can have a character who makes all the mistakes, so we can learn by their mistakes. We don't have to go out and suffer the pain of making the same mistakes they do. And yet those mistakes we can identify with the mistakes they're making because they're not far off from our perimeters, and we realize that we live in a world where we're at risk of making mistakes all the time. And to have a character who makes mistakes and reveals what the cause and effect of that is very rewarding to the reader, and the reader will begin to be drawn towards the character for that reason. It's a chance for your reader to learn and kind of get a sense for what could happen without the pain. Think about what it is exactly about the character that is being offered to the reader. And it isn't always like, well, the character is, a role model. It could be that the character does things that are awful or are not good or harmful, but we're still getting something from it. The underdog is probably used most of the time for this reason. The nature of the world we live in, humans, at least once in their life, are faced with something that's bigger than themselves. Each of us are just a tiny little human placed in circumstances that a lot of the times become looming and much more than we can deal with. And for this reason, the underdog is a very likable character, because we use it to learn how to handle life. We use that character to learn how to handle life. The underdog is put in these insurmountable situations, and the attitudes they take and the sacrifices they make to push through and get the last laugh through that situation teach us about what attitudes we need to make, what kind of energy we need to put forward, and what kind of strategies we need to develop to make it through life. So that's what we're getting from that character. So if you think along the lines of what can this character offer my viewer, then you can start to find new ways of making your characters likable. You can have one character where you decide that they'll always just come up with an unusual answer to whatever life gives them, and so the viewer will realize that by reading the story and paying attention to this character, they're going to get some insight into what they can do in situations that has not occurred to them. You could have a character that says exactly the wrong things at all times, and that could be a learning situation for your viewer. Human communication is a nuance where there's a lot of things that aren't said, and so by having a character who either just says it or says just the totally wrong thing, it gives us a lot to think about. If you have a character who says all the wrong things, it sort of breaks the ice, and it gives us a chance to reevaluate what everything is all about and why things are the way they are. So an exercise you can do is you can brainstorm, choose a character, and on the top of a blank page write the character's name, provide for my reader, and then start writing away for 15 minutes. Try to think of as many ideas as you can to help guide the development of that character. A word of warning about thinking about your character along these lines. keep it organic. You don't want your character to become preachy. You don't want your character just to spout off the names of a bunch of bands in the hopes that the viewer will like the character more for new insight on music. You don't want to break your reader from the spell that they are in when they read your fiction. You want it to seem natural, and you want the reader to not look back and realize that your character is just saying and doing things for other reasons than because that's who they are. Another thing you can do is ask yourself, why have I chosen the friends I've chosen? And you can write that down. And the answers you come up with are things that you gain from having those friends. And they could give you really great insight into what your character can provide for your readers. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you have any ideas about how to make characters more likable, please leave a comment so that other people watching this tutorial can read it and share the wisdom. And please remember to hit the like button. Again, visit my website, solomation.com. I hope your writing goes great, and I hope you have a good day.